Just 9 months removed from a torn ACL, Stefon Diggs is a full go at Patriots training camp. The 31-year-old former All-Pro passed his physical, has been a pleasant surprise so far in Foxborough. Diggs slots in as the #1 wideout for Jamey, and he's on track to start Week 1. We've got training camp covered from all angles, including fantasy. It's never too early for draft prep, and that's why we bring in CBS Sports senior fantasy writer Jamey Eisenberg. And Jamey, I don't think many people expected Stefon Diggs to be suiting up in Week 1, and yet here he is practicing without any limitations in July. What are you projecting from him this season in New England?
You know, Chris, it's obviously exciting that he's good to go, and I think he does exactly what he could do for what he was brought to Buffalo a few years ago, you know, to be that guy for Jamey like he was for Josh Allen. I'm curious to see where he's going to line up the most, because last year we saw him get off to a great start in Houston when he moved from Buffalo to the Texans, but he spent a lot of time as the slot receiver for Houston. I think that's going to be Demario Douglas this year for the Patriots, and the reason I bring that up is because of Josh McDaniels, who's now the play caller there for the Patriots. We know he's gotten great production from that position. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, even Danny Amendola. The slot receiver for the Patriots has been fantastic, and with McDaniels now back calling plays, if Diggs is there, I'm going to love him, but I think it's going to be Douglas. So we'll see how he does at his age, coming off the injury, playing on the outside. But I think for what his value will be, a guy that you should be looking for in that round 7 range is a #3 receiver that could potentially become a top 20 type option, but going to be 32 in November, coming off a pretty tough injury. I'm just going to be cautiously optimistic as opposed to going all in on Stefon Diggs.
I definitely think that's wise. You'll wait before you really see if he's able to reach his peak production. Now, as you dive into projections for pass catchers that is, across the league, who is your top breakout candidate?
I'm very excited about Jawan Jennings. You know, I was a little hesitant to say he was going to be a breakout candidate when he sort of, you know, went about the potential trade demands or complaining about his contract. I love the fact that he showed up and he's practicing, because we saw last year in San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk was a hold-in, and he got off to a horrible start before he got injured. The players in the last couple of years that have been holdouts or hold-ins have really struggled with their production, so be careful about Terry McLaurin this year. But in the case of Jawan Jennings, you have no more Deebo Samuel. You have Ayuk coming off the ACL and MCL tear, the devastating knee injury they suffered last year in Week 7. You have Ricky Pearsall, who's a young player trying to find his way, dealing with a hamstring injury right now, so he's on the PUP list. So this is going to be a guy that soaks up targets. He's coming off a career season, averaging 14 PPR points per game. I think he's going to lead the receiving corps in targets, potentially even more so than George Kittle from a target perspective. But just the opportunity for him to be that go-to guy for Brock Purdy, for Kyle Shanahan in this offense, as long as he doesn't have any issues in terms of injuries or contract situation, I think he's going to return great value as a guy that you're looking for in that round 6 or round 7 range, right around where about Stefon Diggs is going as well.
Now, and we also know, Jamey, that running backs can make or break your lineup. Which team's backfield will you be monitoring the most during training camp?
Yeah, we got a lot of them. You know, you got the situation, the Giants, with who's going to be the starter there. Jacksonville's certainly one of the more interesting ones. You got the, Charger situation. Is it going to be Najee Harris, or are we going to see Amari in Hampton? But the one that's really, I think, a lot of people looking at, I think probably because of the team, is the Dallas Cowboys. You know, you look at the situation there with Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, the 2 veterans that they brought in from other teams this year. You have 2 rookies in Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Who is going to be the one that steps forward? Well, I think Javonte Williams is going to get the first opportunity. And we saw as a rookie in Denver, he was really, really on his way to looking like one of the better fantasy options. Then he suffers the ACL tear in year 2 and really hasn't bounced back. But he's coming off a strong year in Denver, catching the ball, over 50 receptions for Sean Payton. If he can be involved in the passing game and maybe get back a little bit of that juice that he had in his rookie season, I'm going to be very excited about Javonte Williams. But this is really one of those backfields where I think you're looking at almost similar to Stefon Diggs. You want to take a cautiously optimistic approach. Don't reach for any of the Cowboys guys, but the 2 that I'm going to try and walk away from my draft with in some way, shape, or form is Javonte Williams and Jaden Blue. I love the reports on the rookie. I think he's going to be really explosive. Is he going to be big enough to handle a full-time lead type of running back role? That remains to be seen. So you get Javonte in that round 7, round 8 range. You get Jaden Blue about round 10. I think you'd be happy with those 2 guys this year.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled to see how that running back group is going to do in Dallas. Now, what about a deep sleeper that should be on our radar that nobody's really talking about?
So we spent a lot of time on our Fantasy Football Today podcast, and really as our staff, we're a little bit nervous about Saquon Barkley. I wrote about it in February that I'm going to be just a little bit concerned about a guy coming off such an amazing season, over 2,000 yards rushing, was in the, right up there at the top running back for the season. He was right up there with Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. And a lot of people hoping that Barkley's going to repeat that performance because he's got that same offensive line in front of him, same environment around him. But the history of 2,000-yard rushers and the production of guys coming off the amount of work that Saquon Barkley had, over 480 180 total touches when you factor in the Super Bowl run. I'm looking at Will Shipley, who could be the backup running back there in Philadelphia. So if we do see Barkley miss any time, which no one's rooting for, but if that does happen, then I think we see Shipley step into that role. Now, we got to keep an eye on if Shipley's going to be the number 2 running back, because they signed A.J. Dillon, who missed all of last season with a neck injury. But if Shipley is going to be that backup running back, that handcuff guy that we talk about, that lottery ticket that could help you win your league, he's somebody that I take with one of my last picks, and at some point this season, he could be a huge difference maker.
All right, shout out to Clemson Tigers, Will Shipley, the sleeper for Jamey. We appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You want to dominate your league this season? The Fantasy Football Today podcast has everything you need. Jamey, Dave Richard, and the FFT crew get you ready for the season with projections, mock drafts, and reaction to the latest news out of training camp. Watch live on YouTube or download and subscribe to Fantasy Football Today wherever you get your podcasts.